Let me turn the recording on. But we will touch on them and go over kind of what are the scripts and dialogues that are available to you. But what we're going to talk about today mainly are the 5 objections, right? What are the 5 things that are typical? We are going to have to change how we navigate listings, right? All of this stuff, this current new things that are happening. Our words matter. And so how we explain commission is definitely going to be an interesting topic coming up, right? I don't know if you guys watched that video that John from Motto sent out last week, but I would highly encourage you to. It was a really interesting perspective on what antitrust is, and helping understand like kind of the root of how the verdict came down. It's about 23 minutes, so it was a pretty good little watch. So, and then next Thursday, I hope all of you guys will make it. Shannon's going to go over the ER with us and talk commission and get into the weeds of that. So it's going to be a good presentation and be a good dialogue. So that will be, I believe we're doing Zoom and in person. If we get a big enough crowd, then we'll probably move it off site. But right now it's going to be at Arrowhead North. So definitely put that on your calendar. So with that being said, let's jump in. Let me get my PowerPoint going.
What time, Sarah, on Thursday?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have the lunch and learn this Thursday with Bill from Valley Building Inspectors, and that's at 11. So it's a lunch and learn. So if you're going to attend that one, it's how to get business from client testimonials, I believe is the topic. So it should be a good one as well. And he's a lot of fun. So and always, free lunch, right? Who doesn't mind that? All right. So before we get started, we are on a never-ending quest to move away from being typical. If you've taken any momentum classes, you hear us say, like, what's the difference between a typical sales agent and an entrepreneur or someone who's thriving, right? And so we want to ask ourselves that these questions right here, excuse me, I'm having some allergies today. So 4 assumptions that we want to substantially increase your listing inventory, right? He who lists lasts, right? And we know that for every listing that's taken, 1.5 buy sides should be generated, right? And we know that 2 to 3 more homes will go on the market near or around that property, right? So we want to leverage that, and that we want to master an effective proven dialogue. I know I probably beat this to death, but you guys practicing your scripts and dialogues is how you convert. It's how we overcome objections. If you've ever been in a situation where, the deer in the headlights, right? It doesn't feel good and it knocks us off our game. And so we're having the scripts and dialogues and practicing them and making them a part of your DNA, right? So they're not even at that point, Sandra, they're not even a script that's foreign. They're just a part of your vocabulary, right? A part of what you say is on a day-to-day basis, right? So we want to differentiate ourselves from typical. There's a lot of stuff happening right now in our industry, right? And if some of you probably left the meeting last Thursday going, wow, am I going to have a job? Should I, some of us were like, I think Kyle was like, I'm going to Costco to see if they're hiring, right? So, because it's, we got a lot of moving parts happening right now, but rest assured that as an industry, we will pivot, right? We will figure this out. And so, but we want to be different, right? And when it comes down to, are you a realtor or are you just a real estate agent? That's going to be a huge differentiator, right? And you don't know the difference, go look and see why you want to be a realtor and be a member of NAR versus not being a member of NAR, right? And then commissions, I thought the way Rick Ramirez last week explained his commissions was freaking brilliant. And I'm going to be stealing that because I thought it was brilliant how he presented it. And I think it's going to be, the difference between overcoming that, right? Because it's all over Wall Street, you guys, it's all over the headlines. The next listing appointment you go on, it's probably going to be a topic. And so how are you going to navigate that, and how do you separate yourself from the competition, right? And then we want to study and practice and maximize your production, right? So study, practice, take this class again, right? Role play the scripts and dialogues that are in here. And so what's the best way? So in the materials on page 3, what's the best way to prevent an objection? And that is basically to work on improving your conversational weaknesses. And so in momentum, we talk about it's not a listing presentation, it's a listing conversation. And so if you can become good at being a good conversationalist, right, then that helps us to overcome the objections. Most of the times, the things that we say or don't say are what create the objections. Right. So think about that. We create the issues for ourselves because of things we do or don't say. Okay. Or not having the confidence, right? We talked about that last week of like lacking confidence to actually have those conversations with sellers. Right. And again, going back to the commission thing, if if sellers are putting their houses on the market and there's no co-broke, we have to get good at explaining why that's going to cause their home to not sell faster, right? Or not sell for top dollar. And, one of the things that I was really challenged with in looking at some of the trial stuff was that it kept saying that we cost homeowners. And I'm thinking that time frame from 2019 to current, homes were selling like hotcakes and selling for thousands over asking. And so my mind was really struggling with that, because it's like, how did we cost you money when in fact you made more money on your sale of your house than you had in history, right? And so it was just a kind of boggling my mind how that was presented. So anyway, most realtors want to, so I got somebody, oh, Kim, she must have fallen out of off Zoom. Okay. So again, most realtors want dialogues that cure problems they've created. So smarter approaches is to internalize a system that prevents those common problems from even occurring. So we want to, number one is we want to allow a seller to self-discover. So we want to be a leader, right? We don't want to come in there and make assumptions that we know what's best for them, right? And so we want to go into the situation having a win-win attitude. We're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation to see if we can create a win-win. And sometimes you're going to not, right? You're going to walk out of that situation. If you feel like there's red flags, walk away, you guys. It's not worth getting sued. Okay. We had I always love listening to the insurance agent, right? And the attorney talk about all the stupid stuff that happens in our industry that leads to lawsuits that could have totally been prevented, right? So on this now, if I'm going on a listing appointment and it's not someone I know, I may or may not email comps ahead of time. If they're not interviewing anybody else, I probably will, because I want them to have time to look at the photos, read the MLS, get into the weeds of that. If I'm going up against competition, I'm not going to do that. Now, if it's someone from my sphere, past client, I will send that all day long. If it's somebody that is interviewing other people, I don't want Sandra coming in behind me and using my comps against me, right? And so I will then bring my laptop and then be able to open up the comps and show them pictures as we're going through the presentation, right, or having the conversation. So we want them, though, to allow to be a leader, right? Take responsibility. We've got sellers in the market that are still pricing on COVID pricing, right? So they have to take responsibility for that. And it has to be a partnership. Again, we can't go in there making assumptions about what we think is best for them. And they also can't, not take the information. This is our job. I don't know if you guys saw my post. I reposted it from 2 years ago when Zillow lost their butts, the $381 million. It actually got shared 108 times. So it was probably the most viral post that I've ever done personally. But it was to the point of, I have a license, right? Don't mistake your Zestimate for my real estate license, right? And so we don't want to work with people who don't respect that, because you guys were allowed to practice law without the protection of the law, but we're in the trenches. We do this every day, right? So I want to make sure we work with people that it's a win-win. They respect your opinion. We respect their opinion. We want to move beyond opinions, right? Because we want it to be tangible. And the only way to be tangible is to look at the facts. And the facts are the data, right? And you guys have heard me say this before. When you run comps, your job is to be an investigator to find out why a home sold. What caused that home to sell for what the price that it did. I have a coaching client of mine that he's actually canceling the one and only listing he's taken. It's been a very challenging coaching client this year. And, I had pressed him weeks ago. I'm like, the fact that this home is near a railroad, a train track, is an issue. No, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's an issue. The home has failed to sell. It's been shown and it has failed to sell. And so we talked about, his opinion, right? And then what are the facts? What are the tangible facts? So we want to be number 3 is being strategic, right? This helps us move beyond, like, we want to be logical, right? Because selling a home is emotional. And so we want to be the sound of reason, right? To be logical. And we have to be looking at expireds and canceled these days, right? Because homes are Mark's listing is a perfect example. It's going to cancel and the people are going to put it up for rent because it failed to sell. So we want to be logical in that situation. Had he priced it from the jump where it's priced now, might have sold. Right. But they chased the market down and now they're in a situation financially where they can no longer sit with a vacant home. They've got to get a tenant in there. Okay. And so we need to be the sound of reason when they're in that space, and they need to understand that a train track and new construction competing is an issue, right? It's an issue when you're trying to sell a house. An obstacle, we'll call it an obstacle. So number 4, track your results, right? We want to be accountable. How many listing appointments did you go on? How many of them did you get? How many of them did they sell? Right. And so we want to track that. And if you say I'm getting 99% of my listings, we're not going on enough. We're not going on enough, and we're only going on friends and family. And so we want to We want to create more opportunities to, actually drive your conversion rate down. I know that might sound silly, but if you're at, the national average is 65%, and I'm not talking database, right? I'm not talking past clients in Sphere. I'm talking leads that don't know you, Kim. Then the national average is about 65% conversion rate. One of the coaches at Workman actually wants his conversion to go down because that means he's going out and meeting more people who don't know him. Right. And so when we can go on more appointments, we create more opportunities. And then we want to improve, right? So how do I be intentional? How do I improve my results? Well, if we track our conversions, now I know what, if I know I'm at 65%, great, I'm average, right? If I want to increase or decrease that, I need to track it. And how do I do that? Right. I have to be intentional. I have to pay attention to that. I have to change what I'm saying if it's not working. Right. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Right. So we want to improve where we can. And the only way to improve is to track what you're doing. And then number 6, you want to cause your results. So you want to be proactive. Those of us in the gas, and I'll be transparent. I've yet to hit 50 contacts in a week. Right. I've yet to do it. Started out strong yesterday. It was Monday. Almost blew it off, but I didn't. Got in there, got it done after our meeting, right? And so we have to cause a result. So being proactive, what is it you can do in your marketplace, right? Who's the people you can call? Can you go stand in the grocery store in the lettuce and wear your name tag and talk to people, right? Be proactive, right? Choose to focus on activities that make the phone ring, or that cause you to get in front of people to have more conversations. Okay. So becoming professionally attractive. I love this slide because I think there's a lot of not professionalism in our industry. And clearly this lawsuit is evidence of some of that. So sellers want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And so here's some important dispositions that you need to possess. So we have to have confidence versus being timid or cocky. Right. So we don't want to be timid. And we also don't want to come in there and be, full of ourselves either. We want to be likable. Right. I know immediately when I meet another Libra. I know it might sound weird, but I just know because I'm immediately drawn to them. Right. And it's like, when's your birthday? I know that sounds like a weird question, but when's your birthday? Oh, I knew you were Libra. Right. And so be likable. If you ever have been around Rose, Ian, Rose gets up in your space, right, Sandra?
Yeah.
I mean, she's up in your space. And before you're done, she's giving you a hug. Right. She is likable.
Every time.
Every time. Yep. And so when I have been asking Rose for years, like, what's your secret sauce? And she's like, I don't know what you mean, Sarah. And finally, it was when her son joined the team, we were doing a group coaching call. And she said to her son, you have to treat everyone like they're your new best friend. And I went, that's it. That's your secret sauce. And she goes, whatever, but it is. And if you're ever around her, she's like your new best friend. Okay. So we need to be likable versus being incompatible or rude or unapproachable. We've all seen that person with the resting bitch face, right? so don't do that, right? Be approachable instead of being withdrawn, right? Or being too, I don't know, stuck up, maybe to that we don't want that either. And being open to suggestions. One of my favorite scripts, you guys, is just the word "oh," because I can say it in all kinds of different ways and I can get all kinds of different answers, right? We've all dealt with someone who is closed off, and so we don't want that. And we can't. And again, when sellers sometimes know things, right? People have intuition. There's, they might have a beat on something that we don't know about, so we need to stay open to suggestions. Organized. I will tell you that one time I went on a listing appointment for Nate. It was one of those like, hey, Nate can't go. Here's the file. You're on your way. Right. And I walk in and literally papers are falling out of the file. And I say to the guy, like, I'm coming in on Nate's place. I didn't have time to, look at the comps. Did I get the listing? No, didn't get the listing. The guy was irritated with me. I was late. Shit's falling out of the file. And I literally say, I didn't have time to prepare. And so I didn't get the listing, right? So don't do that, right? So we should have just rescheduled that appointment because we lost the listing. We want to be structured versus being chaotic. We want to be aware, right? Be aware, pay attention to details. People naturally leak who they are, right? Every human being on the planet, I don't care who they are, they wear their heart on their sleeve. Even the most disgusting people on the planet wear their heart on their sleeve. They just have trauma, right? They have trauma and they got stuff going on that makes them unique in how they express their trauma, right? So we want to be aware of that. I want to pay attention to those details. I need to probably do a disc class for you guys. We haven't done one in a while, but you walk a home, there are visual clues from the way the home is decorated to the way the person dresses, the car that they drive, the way they shake your hand, right? There are obvious ways you can tell where's their heart, Are they a D? Are they an I? Are they an S or an C? Right? So we've got to pay attention to those details. And obviously the opposite of that is being oblivious. You got to be genuine, right? Ogmandino says, I will greet this day with love in my heart. And so who can say no to my goods? He might not like what I wear, sound of my voice, but he won't say no to my goods because he hears the love in my heart. So if we're genuine, and I believe all three of you on this call are genuine, and we come from a place of service, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We are here to serve people's needs of the primal need of shelter. So if we come from a space of genuine, authentic, I want to help you get your home sold, you're not going to fail, you guys. It'd be impossible to say no to you. Okay. Be intentional. Every day we should be thinking, we should get up every day and be intentional with our time. I was having lunch with a friend of mine on Sunday and her son, and we were talking about potential. And I got a little like down on myself, but also a little bit excited at the same time. Because it's like, I've been saying to myself, you need to put some extra zeros behind your goals. Right. And it's kind of terrifying, right? To think about putting zeros behind your goals. Right. And so, but it's possible, right? But we got to be intentional. Every minute of the day that you're committed to working, you need to be intentional. Okay. Being proactive. Proactive means to produce action, right? So being intentional, I know what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to go freaking do it, right? We want to be logical versus being unreasonable. And again, selling a home, you guys, or buying a home is emotional. So we need to be the voice of logic for people and help guide them through that. I closed a deal, it's been 2 summers ago. And it was 16 months with Taylor Morrison. And at the end it was rough. And my client was ready to cancel. And I said, don't do that. I said, don't let this builder's lack of professionalism, competency, good people, whatever. I said, don't let that steal your dream. You stood on this lot and professed it to be true that it was going to be your lot. You were going to build a home here. And out of 4 lots and 30 people on a Zoom call, you won the lottery. Literally. I said, so don't let them rob you of that. This is your home. And so I had to talk him through that because he was literally online looking at homes back in Houston. Was going to bounce from Phoenix. I got to get out of here. Right. And so we have to be logical, right? And help them walk through that. We want to be focused versus being scattered. Be unique. All of you guys, we come from a past life, right? What's your unique gifts and abilities that you bring to the table? So be unique in that, right? And own it instead of being typical, right? We want to be honest. That's one of that's one of the challenges I have with people not being a member of NAR is we have code of conduct and code of ethics. And one of those code of ethics is honesty. Right. And so I really struggle with that. And I struggle with people who would even dare to say, I don't want to be a member of NAR. Right. Because everything falls apart if you have no code of conduct. Right. So obviously being misleading, we don't want to be that. And then we want to be passionate. I mean, I think you guys know how passionate I am about this, right? I love this job. I love this industry. I think it's the coolest thing next to being a rock star. And so be passionate, right? Let that passion shine through so that people are drawn to that. And they know that, gosh, Sandra loves what she does. And I know that if I list my house with her or I get in a car to go buy a house with her, she is going to be just taking care of me, right? Because she loves what she does. Okay. And so objections disappear in proportion to a seller or buyer's confidence in you and your abilities, right? So the average person thinks that what we do is, on HGTV, right? Let me check the chat. Yes. Okay, Jessica, I will make that happen. We will get a disc class going. So, and I don't know where Kim went. She dropped off. She must be having Zoom challenges today. Okay, so here are our 5 objections that we're going to talk about. This was kind of the class title today, as the 5 objections. So pricing a home is not an exact science. And so most sellers feel their home is worth more than it actually is and have a hard time justifying the price beyond this is what I need, or what I want, or what I paid, or I put this into it, or I need to, like, I think I shared last week, my friend, that I got to pay my grandma back $100,000, right? And so since the seller's perception is indeed their reality, we have to keep these 5 rules in mind when addressing pricing objections, questions, or concerns. Okay, so stay curious. Oh, Jessica, tell me more about that. Or, oh, that was your experience the last time you sold a home, right? So ask questions. We got to go 3 deep. And so tell me more about that. Why do you feel that way? What was your previous experience, right? And so asking more questions allows us to see a bigger picture, right? I had a listing years ago that I had sold them the home. They were very challenging clients. And they left, they moved to Denver, house is vacant, and I go to check on the house, and there's a notice of foreclosure on the driveway, on the garage door. Her name was Katie. Call her up. I'm like, Katie, I'm like, what is going on? And she didn't want it. She was so private. She didn't want to tell me that they'd stopped making their mortgage payment, obviously, because they couldn't afford to because of the rent they were paying in Denver. But she wouldn't reduce her price. So finally, I had to get her to tell me all of the story, right? Because she was holding back and not giving me the whole story. I probably could have asked different questions, right? And gone deeper with that. Like, what happens once the house goes vacant? Right? You got to keep making your mortgage payment. You got to keep the utilities on. Do people understand that? There's actually been a lawsuit where realtors were sued because an owner, his house went to foreclosure because no one told him he needed to keep making his mortgage payment. It's obvious, you would think, but clearly in that situation, it was not obvious, right? So we want to ask more questions, qualifying questions, right? Dig into that. Tell me more. Why do you feel that way? Right? What was your previous experience? If they're a first-time seller, they might not have a previous experience. So tell me, somebody you know has sold a home. What was their experience? We want to stay away from arrogance, right? Again, cannot go in and make assumptions that we know what is in their best interest. We might, but we can't make that assumption. And you guys, if you are genuine and you truly come from a space of love, there will be a time in your career when you talk someone out of buying or selling. When you say to them, Sandra, I don't think this is the right time for you. One of my good friends is getting married in December and they're talking about moving at the same time. I'm like, stop it. You're overwhelmed with getting married. Just stay in your rental for a little while, for a year, and then think about moving. It's too much, right? You're gonna make yourself crazy. And so sometimes we will talk people out of it because that's what's in their best interest. So we want to stay away from arrogance. We want to remain likable. Number 3 is stay calm. I know that, if we haven't sold a house in a minute, we get anxious and desperate, right? We want to stay out of that, right? Just keep your emotions out of it. This is not about you. This is about what is in their best interest and how do I help them get there. I shared the story of the most brilliant listing appointment I've ever been on with Nate. The only thing we said to this woman was, what are your goals and how can we help you get there? We never talked price. We never talked commission. We never talked about how great we were. None of that. We had it. It was all there in our briefcases. But we literally just toured the home, sat down at her kitchen table, heard her story, and said, what are your goals and how can we help you get there? All 3 of you can do that. You don't need $5,000 a month to budget, right, for your marketing. You can sit down and have that genuine, compassionate, caring conversation. We got to the door. She said, send me your listing agreement and tell me how to price it. Right. I helped her with 3 transactions. She's a lovely lady. So keep your emotions out. Stay logical. Okay. So neutralize their emotions. That's where we got to look at the data, right? If there's comps that have expired or canceled, that's the data that helps us say, okay, well, we want to be over here in the success side. And right now, homes, you guys, especially stuff in that $400,000 to $800,000 window, it has got to appear to be a good deal. It's got to. We have a major clog in our system right now. We talked about the Sun City market still being pretty robust, right? Because those people don't care about the interest rates. Most of the time they're paying cash. First-time home buyers, not enough inventory, right? And why is that, Sandra? Well, the person in that first-time home buyer product, they're not moving. They're not moving because they're tied to their interest rates and they don't want to give up their 3.5 to go to 7. Makes sense, right? But how do we help them overcome that so we can create more of that first-time home buyer? The 400,000 to 800,000 is sitting, right? Because you don't have the move-up buyers, right? But the 800,000 and above is moving. So in my mind, where do I want to go? Go work with the rich people, the people who can afford an $800,000 house, right? So because I like those paychecks better anyway. Okay, so the market, know the market and know where the market's moving, right? So, so stay logical, neutralize their emotions. And again, pricing is super important. If a home comes on the market, condition, location, and price, it's got to appear to be a good deal in today's market. And then stay proactive. You got to know your walkaway price. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but there will be a time in your career where you go, sorry, Mr. Seller, this is not a win-win. I got to go. Right. And so, now caveat to that, if you guys like each other and you're just off on price, tell them to get an appraisal done and you'll reimburse them when the house closes, right? For the appraisal. So if it never sells, you're not out the money, right? They go do the appraisal. Now we have a third party that's saying, okay, this is what we think the home is worth. We can price it accordingly. If you price it $1 under the appraisal, you can market it that way, price below appraisal. They don't need to know it's only $1, right? And then now we're happy. The other thing too is so if you could do the appraisal, but also you like each other, give them 30 days at their price. And then say, Kim, I'll give you 30 days at your price, but in 30 days, we're dropping it to my price. You put the price reduction in the listing agreement with the date. That way they don't get amnesia. And in 30 days from now, Jessica, they tell you, I don't remember saying that. No, it's in the listing agreement. Now, you need to make sure you remind them. Don't just go dropping the price, right? Because that can make people mad too. Because if they don't actually, they don't actually remember, then we want to make sure we remind them, hey, today's the 31st day. We're going to drop the price. There is a realtor in our market that has done this. I haven't seen him do it recently, but I haven't followed him that much recently. He was doing price reductions every day, $1 every day. And the reason he was doing that is it refreshed that listing in searches. And so it was getting more exposure. That's kind of a lot of work to do price reductions every day, especially if you're carrying a few listings. But it's a tactic, it's a way to get the home more exposed, right? So know your walkaway price. If you definitely, not just price, but are they going to be challenging? And I promise you, if they're hard on price and they beat you up on commission, they will continue to be that way throughout the entire listing agreement. And if you give on any of those, they will continue to do it, right? And so at some point, you have to know your walkout. You have to know what your bottom line is for your commission. Because if they beat you up on commission now, they're going to beat you up the entire process. And so it doesn't do us any good to amass a bunch of listings that end up expiring. There's a cost associated with that. And, the minute that your time, you put up a sign, you get, photography done, you print flyers, you do an open house, right? There's cost associated with taking listings. And if they don't sell, you've just basically written yourself a check, right? Or, well, not written yourself. Yeah, no, you burned a check. That's a better way to say it. So know your walkout price. But again, right now, I would take listings, build in price reductions, or do appraisals. Okay. And then the price isn't always just about the price. If that person's difficult, they're disrespectful, you're just not going to have a good relationship with them, don't take the listing. Right? Don't take the listing. The only buyer I've ever worked that was $1 million buyer, I fired. Because if you look in the dictionary under the word crazy, there was their names. And it would have ended up there would have been lawsuit. There would have been something litigious that came out of that situation because he was crazy. And so I actually said, you need to go find another realtor. Right. And so that was hard, but it also felt very good, very liberating to say, no, this is my business, my practice. I am not going to represent you because you are not a nice person. You're not a good person. And so know that sometimes it's not just about the price. Okay. And we want to live in a world of abundance. And so having listings that don't sell is counter abundance, right? So talk is cheap. So taking overpriced listings behaviorally communicates a dangerous message. Okay. This tells the seller that you can sell their home even though you told them it was overpriced, right? And then we're chasing the market down. I personally hate calling for price reductions. Hate it. It's not my favorite part of this job. And so I like to tell people that, Sandra, for every 10 showings, we should have an offer. If we don't have an offer after 10 showings, we're overpriced. Maybe not by much because we're getting showings, but people are going into the marketplace. They're finding a better product for a better price. And so it's brilliant. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just say another one that I came across where you have to walk away was that we discovered that the lady was senile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really hard one because she really wanted us to sell it, but we just over time we realized it's, she's not.
Yeah. Nate's got one right now where the lady has dementia and it's super dicey. So they've had to get the family involved, and because she's, she's not, like, she called me because she knows me for being on the team, and she didn't even know her house was for sale.
Yeah, I know.
So I was like, Nate,
stuff like that as well. Did I call you?
Yeah, I was like, Nate, you got an issue going on here, man. So yeah,
red flag.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that, or they have substance abuse or any of those things that you got to be real careful, about that too. Because if they're signing contracts when they're, not in their right mind, that could be dangerous too. So okay, thanks for that, Sandra. Good comment. Okay, pricing beliefs. Okay. So here's a list of the key beliefs you must possess as a pricing specialist. I'm not going to read all of them. This is on page 7. I'm going to highlight a few of the ones I like, that I feel like are really super important. But these beliefs light the path to self-discovery, to correct and justify the price entry point. So homes sell for 2 reasons: price and exposure. So if we price it right and we put it in the MLS, if we use the MLS to our advantage, that is going to be the exposure that you need, because it gets syndicated to all these different sites everywhere else, right? That needs to go. And I don't know, we'll have to see how this whole, Arizona, it's kind of a mute point. I should probably move off of it, but you guys, we're not a state that you can practice real estate and not be a member of NAR. So just so you know, that's not an option. And if you want to be a member of MLS, you have to be a member of NAR. So not an option for here. So, and it'd be interesting that if you're not a member of NAR, you don't have access to the ARM list or any MLS. How are you going to expose that home to the largest buying pool? It won't get syndicated to all the websites out there. Right. And so that's also another reason right there that we need to use the tool. MLS is the 800-pound gorilla, right? That syndicates out and gets the home exposed. Okay. So using that price and exposure, buyers seldom pay more than fair market value. That was not necessarily true in COVID. Buyers were paying whatever they could pay to get homes. That has changed. Right, that has changed. I have an MLS search set up for all of our company listings, and I always find it curious, like every week, the amount of price reductions that are happening. Right, prices are coming down. Okay, and it's the law of supply and demand. Interest rates are high, home prices are high, affordability isn't there. Something's got to give in order for things to sell. Right, and so and again, you need to be aggressive in how you price properties if you want them to sell in today's market. I would rather, Kim, I hate asking for price reductions, and I tell people that that doesn't feel good to me. I would rather be brutally honest with you right now and have you not list your home with me than take your listing and have to beat you up for price reductions, because that does not feel good to me. And when I'm honest like that and authentic with people, they appreciate that, right? Because like I don't, that doesn't feel good to me. I don't want to do that, and it's not going to feel good to you either. And so let's just be logical and price it properly now. I'd rather bring you more offers than none, right? And have to beat you up for price reduction. Okay. Let's see. There's a difference between taking a listing and selling a listing. Doesn't do us any good to have a bunch of inventory that doesn't sell and then it expires. Okay. There's opportunity costs associated with taking overpriced listings. I already kind of talked about that, right? Your time, your effort, your money that's being spent to market the home, all of that. Tangible tools trump all opinions. This is facts. This is data, right? This is the MLS information, the trends that exist in the neighborhood, such as new construction. You guys, new construction and resale, that is a huge, the competition's huge on that. People will buy new construction, even though in most cases, new construction is more expensive than resale. Now, there are some really good deals out there in new construction right now, but it's still, you got to put landscaping in, window coverings, things like that there's a cost there, right? And landscaping is not cheap. And so, but people will buy new over resale, because there's something to be said about, using the bathroom for the first time, right? You're the first person to take a shower in that bathroom, right? And so there's something to be said about that. So just beware. You got to know what trends exist in that neighborhood. What's the pricing? What's the days on market, right? Those are all the tangible tools that will trump opinions. And then lastly, it's unacceptable to leave the seller's money on the table. I think if we have that vibe, and that's part of our DNA, we will have less objections about, well, you realtors just want to price things, as we've been accused of being the cartel, which really, so when we have that vibe, right, and that's, we put that energy out there, then people won't ever have that, that pushback on you to say, well, I think you just want to price my home so it'll sell fast, so you get paid fast, right? And so that used car salesman mentality. So if it's unacceptable for you to leave the seller's money on the table, then but we still have to price it right. I can't get you the money if I don't price it right. And I'd rather bring you more than one offer than no offers. Right? Does that make sense? And so I would, study this page. I'd probably print this out and look at this before you go on listing appointments, right? Commit to these as being a part of your core values, and the beliefs that you have when it comes around pricing homes. Okay. How am I doing on time? Okay, I'm going to do a stop share because we are just going to go through the scripts in here. So if you look at page 8, so you have, these are the scripts, the objections and scripts. So asking the question, so based on the information available, at what price do you think we should enter the market? And then if they're unrealistic, right? And then we go into helping them remind them that usually there's two things that sellers have that is their objection or their objective: price and time. So if I need to be somewhere in 60 days, but the average days on market is 90, I have to price it differently in order to get the home sold so they can get where they need to go in the 60 days. If it's price, right? And I told you guys the story of Jason last week, who price was all the thing. And then 7 days later, it became timing, right? So you have to pay attention to those changes that might happen. And so you always want to go back to point of pain. So Sandra, you said you need to be out of here in 60 days. Is that still the objective? Is that still the goal? Right. And if so, then I need to consult you a little bit on how we're going to get you there. Okay. And so we talked about the seven steps pricing strategy last week, and helping them to self-discover there. So moving on to the next script here, pricing homes is neighborhood specific. The seller's unrealistic or wants to use a benchmark pricing. So per my research, the only thing your home has in common with the benchmark home is, and then you're going to say the features and amenities. As you can see, these homes possess features and amenities, which appear to be driving their value. So again, we want to go back to apples and apples. A seller doesn't understand that, Jim and Sally's house that's sold a couple doors down, it was a 2-story. So I'm not going to use that as a comp, right? If I'm dealing with a single story. And so we have to be able to educate them on that. So you've got a script in here for seller believes the home is worth more because of a specific amenity. I had a listing a few years ago that they had solar. And at the time, solar was not selling like solar sells now. And my seller thought that was like the best thing since cotton candy. And it ended up actually at the time, it ended up costing them, the house sold for $50,000 less than if it hadn't had the solar on it. And so at the time, solar was not good. This is probably 10 years ago. It's different now, obviously, but if they have, it could be a pool, it could be solar, it could be whatever, right? Whatever that amenity is. And so we want to help them overcome why that may or may not add value to their home. And the same thing if someone says, well, I have a new roof. Well, that's not, yes, it's a selling feature, but it's not a feature that adds value. What do I mean by that? A new roof is maintenance. You just brought your home up to the maintenance where it should be to be sellable. So is it a selling feature? Yes. Someone will say, great, I like this house because it has a new roof, and that's not a cost I have to invest in the near future, but it does not add value. Does that make sense? Meaning that I can't jack the price by 15 grand because I put a new roof on it. Okay. Has value, but does not add value. Okay. Seller wants to list above the competition. So you've got a script in there for that one. And then sellers who want to disregard the competition, right? They just have some crazy number. So you've got a script there. Previous agent told me it was the wrong time of year. We don't really have a wrong time of year here in Arizona. Are there peaks and valleys? Yes. July typically is not a great month because it's so freaking hot and nobody wants to do anything. Last couple years, well, this last July was weird, but COVID July was a different market, right? We can't even take that into consideration. September can be a little bit of a lull too, but usually, we don't shovel sunshine, right? And so homes sell all the time. And if they're priced right, homes that come on the market during the holidays or buyers who are looking during the holidays, they have a high motivation, you guys. If they're relocating in and they've got to get settled before the end of the year, there's a high motivation there. Okay. Seller wants to start too high. So you've got a script for that objection. And then let's see. Stubborn sellers, you've got some stacking objections you can do in there. So bottom line dialogue is that this is basically if you've exhausted all your justifications, you've just got someone who's completely stubborn. So Mr. Seller, finding an opportunity or an appropriate price for the home is not an abstract philosophy. We've had the opportunity to know and understand what buyers in your area are doing. That's your pricing. And then if which category do you want to be in? And you have the expireds and canceled, which is the rejected market. And then you have the solds, right? If they're logical, they're going to say, well, I want to be in the solds. Okay. And then going back, so page 11, you've got a whole bunch of scripts in there about if they say no and how to kind of get back to that. Get back to their hot point, right? Page 12, you've got a big house, small house, you reap what you sow scripts in there. And then continuing on, you have beware of sellers who want to, not use simple logic, right? So we could list your home for 25,000 over market value, but in doing so, let me define for you who would become your new target: a cash buyer or someone who needs to pay $25,000 over market value. How many buyers do you think exist that are willing to pay $25,000 over asking? My research shows that listing the home for $25,000 over market value will result in your needs not being fulfilled. Go back to the hot button, right? What's the pain point? How are you going to feel if we can't get your home sold in 60 days? What's going to happen? Right. So, and shouldn't we do stuff? Shouldn't we price it appropriately so that doesn't happen and we can hit your goal? We've done all this updating over the past few years. Again, new roof. I was one of those sellers. Had to put a new roof on my house in Prescott, and Nate was the one that kind of put me back in check. I was like, well, I'm going to raise the price. He goes, really, Sarah? He's like, your house needed a new roof. That was just maintenance. He's like, you can't raise your price. Like, it doesn't add value, right? So we've done all this updating. So that could be kitchen, baths, all of that. And sure, those things do have value in the eye of the buyer, meaning that it makes the home more attractive, but it doesn't add value to the price. Okay. Let's see, what else do we got here? The buyers don't care about the seller's needs. I have to get $25,000 more. That will be something you'll hear for various reasons, whether it's grandma or we have to move or we need down payment. And that just, unfortunately, the market doesn't care about that, right? COVID market did. This market does not. So Joe said he would list my home above the market. So how did Joe justify his price? Did he share numbers with you? Do you have a copy? Do you think what buyers have done in the past buying situations is important? Do you think that Joe was only telling you what you thought he wanted to hear? And so, right, because sometimes we do that. We get into that desperate, okay, Jessica, whatever you want to list it at, I just need the listing. And that is not a good way to practice real estate. Because it will crash and burn and it will just be uncomfortable. And again, I hate asking for price reductions. And so I'd rather just price it right in the beginning. And today pricing is super important. Let's see. Joe said he would list my home above the market. Again, you got to know your walkout price. And this script just basically says, give me a call. If your home doesn't sell and Joe's not able to get the job done, give me a call and I'll come back out. Right. And then shouldn't we leave room for negotiation? You guys, if you work with people from certain demographics, certain areas of the world, certain ethnicities, you will run into people who want to negotiate. I had a couple from Texas, and boy, did they want to negotiate. They wanted to haggle everything. And so regionally, you have some people where that just is that's what they do. And then again, with certain demographics, people want to negotiate. You can go take, there's a CE class or not CE class, a designation for working international buyers. And so if that's something that, especially with the Taiwanese plant coming in, we should all probably go get that designation, or at least be able to, understand how people coming in, and it's not just people from Taiwan, is my understanding, right, Sandra? There's people coming in from all over the world that are going to be working at that plant. And so we have a big opportunity, especially where our office is located, right, to help those people. So I would definitely encourage you guys, at least go on the RE/MAX Global Exchange and register yourself there. And if you're going to go to R4 next year, go to the RE/MAX Global Exchange. They have a whole event for that, like a day or like a breakout or whatever, where you can meet people and have that exchange of, networking basically with agents that are in other countries. So we have a big opportunity there. So let's see, how will you feel if your home sells tomorrow? So dealing with that remorse, right? I would feel like we priced it too low. So we want to go 4 deep, right? So may I ask why you would feel that way? Is your goal to meet your needs in your designated time frame? Would you agree that pricing your home at the appropriate price entry point increases the odds of getting one or more offers in your designated time? Would you feel your needs were any less satisfied if the offer came in on the first day as opposed to the 60th day? And so you got to go a little bit deeper with that when you have that objection. I've been on listing appointments where the seller has said to me, yeah, I felt like we left money on the table. Right. And it doesn't feel good when someone says that to you, at least not for me, because I really don't want to leave the seller's money on the table. Right. And so we want to go a little bit deeper with that. And also, I mean, once the house goes on the market, it's emotional, it's stressful. Kids get stressed, animals get stressed. And so they really don't want it to take 90 days to sell your house, right? You really don't want that. That's why, these companies that will remain nameless, they have these slogans and these catchy things. And that's why it's, they prey on that uncomfortableness of selling a home, right? And so, I think you have to address it, right? Because if it sells in 10 days, great. But if it takes 90, we all need to take a beat, and we've been so conditioned that if something doesn't sell in a week, everyone's panicking, and so it's okay. Sometimes we just so one of my scripts that I say to clients, I say it both buyers and sellers, is right buyer, right price, right time. And if it's a buyer, right house, right price, right time. And so that helps people kind of come off the edge of the, because the right buyer just hasn't seen your home yet. Right now, that doesn't mean that we don't price it right or have pictures look good or do open houses, but sometimes we just need to have some patience. Okay. Page 21, and we're wrapping up here. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. We've talked about that a lot this last couple of weeks. Is will you work for less? And so that's going to be, you guys, page 21. You probably need to commit this script to memory right now with everything that's going on. And so will you work for less? One of Nate's great scripts is, well, Joe said he'd do it for this commission. Well, some agents do. It says it just that matter of fact and moves right along. Some agents do. And so basically the script here just says that, do you not think I'm worth what I'm asking? And, you could go on and say like, well, if I'm not able to negotiate my paycheck, how well do you think I'm going to negotiate your sales price? Not everybody would be comfortable saying that, but if you've got a stubborn D client that's really beating you up on commission, that's a good comeback, and it will stop them in their tracks because they'll go, oh, I got some respect for that. Right. And so then more commission. So will you work for less? A couple options in there. And then Joe said he would list my home for less. And this is the one about negotiating your paycheck. Let's see. You got a couple options there. Never talk commission on the phone. I think I've said that to you guys. The minute you give commission on the phone, you're done. So my script on that is that's a great question, Jessica. Thanks for asking. However, it would be unfair for me to answer that question for you without coming out and seeing your home and understanding your needs. And because I like to tailor make all of my commission packages specific to your needs. And until I know what those needs are, I really can't answer that question. Is it the same package for everyone? Yes. But does it make them feel special that I say I tailor make it for you and your needs? Yeah. Okay. So it makes them feel like they're getting something. And we can dust this idea off if you guys want, but there used to be where we did bronze, gold, and platinum, I think. No, silver, bronze, silver, gold. And basically like the gold was like the X apples, right? And you charge more for that. And then the basic was like, okay, I'll do it for lower. But what you do is a closing technique is you go, okay, I really know you want the gold package, Sandra, but you want silver pricing. So just for you tonight, I'll go ahead and give you the gold package at the silver pricing. Right. And so then it makes them feel like they're getting a win. You're still charging the exact commission you wanted, but because the gold is slightly higher in commission, it makes it look like it's an added value. Okay. And so I think I shared with you a gal I used to coach. She had a five things that she does that when she lists a home that you have as value. So photos, photography, staging, a handyman, and a cleaning service. And so she's able to charge slightly more in her marketplace because she has those services. And people want that. They see value in that. Okay. Wrapping up here, listing terms. So we want to only sign a 3-month listing agreement. Well, that was great in COVID, but it doesn't work today because there's homes sitting on the market for longer than 90 days. Okay. So you can't get your job done. And that's where you need to study the market and know what the data says. Because if the data says it's going to take 4 months to sell that house, then you need at least a 6-month listing agreement. Okay. We used to take on luxury. We used to take a 2-year listing agreement. Right? Because that's how long it might take to sell a luxury home. And so market's a little bit different now, but you need to set yourself up for success in that. And don't take a listing that doesn't give you enough time. Where's your office located? So you guys, we have the office in Avondale. We have the office in Glendale. You also, because you're a Remax agent, if you're in Scottsdale and you need to drop in to find properties, call them up and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Can I use your conference room? They'll let you, right? So well, they'll let you. And so I don't let that be an obstacle for you. Where's your office located at? And so, we, and I think it's becoming less and less these days, because we're so virtual, right? But there is a script for that. And then the friendship objection. I have a friend in the business. Well, they wouldn't be talking to you right now if they felt confident about their friend in the business. Okay. So you have a script for that. And then the experience objection. So how long have you been in the business or how many homes have you sold? My favorite thing to say to that is it feels like forever, right? Because it feels like forever since I got a paycheck. And so everyone laughs, right? And we move on. Okay. But you do want to be open and honest with them, right? And let them know how many homes you've actually sold. You can lean in on the office sales too, to say, hey, I've only sold one, but my office does this production. We have this much market share. Okay. And then bonus for being here is that never say no until you know what you're saying no to. So you've got some stacking, conversion, scripts at the last page there. So you guys, hopefully you'll go read all the scripts and be familiar with them. I didn't have time to go through all of them with you today. This is like a 3-hour class if I actually role play with you guys through all of those scripts. So, but hopefully you saw some value in just understanding the primary objections that people have in listing appointments, right? And then how do we overcome those with the scripts and dialogues? And I really hope everyone will come to Shannon's class next week, because I think it's going to be very valuable and very timely with everything that's going on right now. And like I said, I thought the way Rick handled the objection of commission last week was brilliant. I thought it was really smart, and we're just going to have to pivot with this and, continue to be amazing, right? And do what we do. So any questions or comments?
Sarah, I had a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
I put it in the chat, but I was just curious, what year was that where you had like 2 years for a luxury listing? I'm just curious, but I think it's a good example for people to understand that the market changes.
Well, I've been in the business 26 years. It's my 26th year, so about 26 years ago.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just, you could reference that like, hey, 20 years ago, it was standard to have a 2-year listing on a luxury property. Obviously,
Right.
the market's changed. I just think it's a really good example.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, so I'd say 20-ish years ago. Yeah,
Okay,
that
cool.
would be relevant. Awesome. Sandra, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I put it in the chat there. I'll try to make it very concise. So we had a house sell in this community, and the price was priced probably about 70,000 more than what all the conventional wisdom. I did challenge the realtor, and he brought it down about 20,000, but then they found somebody who just like had cash and paid it. And now I have the problem. It was the smallest house in the community. Now I have to sell the biggest house in the community. That's 2.5 times the size of that place. And so I just, maybe we can take it offline, but I just want to know what, they're obviously going to think that they should, they're very sensible. So I think it'll be okay, but what do you do when somebody has, I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, the price is what people will pay for it. But,
When
then
did
if
it
you have,
close? When did it close? When did the small house close?
last week or the week before.
Okay. Was
and
there
I'm
some
gonna have to sell within the next month or so. Yeah.
So I would call the listing agent and just see if they'll give you some information. Like, was there a motivating factor for the buyer
No,
to
I
pay
have
50?
I have the information. He slammed the phone down on me. He's the rudest, horriblest man that planet.
Oh,
But I mean, I have any information I need, but it's just, it's what I do now.
yeah. Gosh, Sandra, and I gotta wrap up here because I got a coaching call right behind you
Yeah, I
guys. Maybe give me a call this afternoon. We can talk through it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so because that's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation. I think I would probably lean in on the fact that they had cash and that there was obviously some motivating factor that we don't know, that they felt like they needed to pay 50 grand more than what the house is worth, and that they paid cash, so there's no appraisal. So yeah, because sometimes people do have a motivation, right, to buy something that we don't understand, like a tree, or somebody lives in the neighborhood, like they could be next door to their family or something, you know what I mean? Some motivating factor that we don't know about. That obviously was not logical. But people with cash, and especially if they're from California, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the funniest thing is I live in the exact same model, so I know how awful it was.
Right. Okay, well, give me a call later. We got a
Okay.
KV core class tomorrow, and then that lunch and learn Thursday. So good stuff coming up. But I will see you guys hopefully next Tuesday. We'll continue on. So have a great day, and if you need anything, reach out. Okay.
Okay, thank you guys.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.